Welcome to the Guy Pie Podcast, featuring Anthony, Chris, John, Sean, and Mark. This is a weekly podcast where five guys come together to make the ultimate conversational pie about the games they are currently playing.
Welcome to the Guy Pie Podcast. I'm Chris. Joining me today is Mark.
Howdy.
And Anthony.
Howdy ho.
John could not be here today. All right, let's get right into it. We'll start us off with a game that's been talked about quite a bit in the past, but is making a resurgence in our group, Stellar Blade. So I finally caved. I ended up picking this up. Anthony, a while back, was kind enough to offer to lend it to me, but with the summer update that came out, the excitement for me to want to play it, I was just like, you know what? I'll try the 2-hour trial on PlayStation Plus Premium. Got hooked in it. I'm like, I really want to commit to playing this right now. But this update just came out, and there are things with this update that I feel like Anthony, especially when I start talking about the game, he's going to get that itch to start playing again. So I caved and just like bought it myself. I've been very much enjoying the game. I think I've only put, I think, 20 to 25 hours into it, because Marvel Rivals has taken up a good chunk of time this week. Gameplay is super solid. I get overly distracted with side quests and stuff like that. Every time you enter a new area, I just like go wandering off and just exploring all the different areas. From my experience with the outfits, I could very much see why Anthony enjoys this game to a certain extent. No, it's really cool. Like I like the whole setup. I like the systems they have in place in terms of gear. Like you have like the 4 mod slots where you, like, right now I have like 2 mods that give me increased XP gains, one that gives me increased gold gains, and then one that's just like damage resistance. I'm not invested in the story. This is definitely one I'm just playing for like the gameplay itself kind of thing. Kind of listening to a solid podcast, just kill things. Boss fights have been pretty solid. I think so far one of my complaints would be I wish they had cosmetics for your weapon. Like I wish you could change that up. It's a small nitpick, but I think that would have been something cool to have in the game. In terms of like where I'm at story wise, with avoiding spoilers, even though it's like an older game, like obviously you both have played the game. I'm in like the Oasis area with like the fishing pond. That's where I'm kind of at right now. I looked into some info, like, because I want to try to go for the platinum. One of the guides said the mission I'm on, if I don't finish certain areas in the beginning, like the beginning town, if I don't finish up the collectibles in there, it fucks you over for like the platinum, or like for like all the side quests and shit. So I'm just making sure I get all that done right now. But yeah, no, I'm having a good time with it. I'm close. I got to work on unlocking those 2 new outfits that Anthony got like as soon as he started playing back into it. But I'll throw it to you now, Anthony. How's it been revisiting and like, because you haven't finished the game, but like getting back into it?
Yeah, so I dropped off. No real reason. It was just a combination of it being somewhat of a difficult game, nowhere near difficulty-wise, I think, to some of the games it was compared to. But for me, someone who generally doesn't play difficult games of that nature, it was like I was having fun, but it was like I was doing short sessions, and then I just kind of like dropped off. But when I jumped back in, it turns out I was like an hour playtime away from that like point of no return, where Mark, you and I were talking about it, like where there's certain things you do with cloud save, so you like do it from there to the end to get one ending, so on and so forth. So I was like, okay, cool. So I started fishing, because that's where the new outfits are. They're locked behind. You get fishing points from fishing, and then you can purchase the outfits. Well, turns out not only do the 2 new outfits are from there, but there's an outfit you unlock that is really nice just from completing the entire fishing, like, the what do you call it? Like the data stuff, like, catch one of every fish to unlock the information and
Yeah.
stuff. So, and there's some quest lines involved. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna go do all that. But then when we talked about the ending thing, I'm like, okay, well, I don't fully understand to what extent I can fuck myself on doing it. So I'm like, I'm gonna do nothing but play through to the end. So I think it was about 6 hours from there to the end. Keep in mind, I'm playing on the easiest difficulty, so as far as playtime hours, comparing me to you, Chris, like probably a bit different. Or wait, did you choose story as well?
Oh
Story
yeah,
mode.
yeah, I went story.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
perfect. Okay, then yeah, timing will be similar compared then. So it's about 6 hours from that point of no return for me, I think. And it was cool. Like the story was, I thought it was pretty okay. Like it wasn't anything new. It wasn't anything stellar, but the cutscenes were great. The acting, the voice acting. I know early on a lot of people were complaining about the English voice acting for Eve, like the English accent voice actor. But I thought it was good. Like the only complaint I really had was not even a complaint, but just some of her battle cries were kind of cheesy sounding. But other than that, it was great. And like there's like in that 6 hour stretch to the end, like there's some great boss fights in there. Like I experienced difficulty with them, and even a couple of them I like. Uh, I don't have it in me like a lot of you guys have, where you can bang your head against the wall to learn the boss's mechanics and just rinse and repeat until you're like, okay, I know now just from fighting him that when he does this and holds it for a second, he's going to swing 3 times. Like, I don't have it in me to just continuously fight till I understand that. So there were some bosses I was having a lot of difficulty with where I just went online and looked up, and they basically was like, these are the moves. They basically told me the move set, and I just like, it was like a 2 minute video. I just watched it like 3 times. And it actually helped me quite a bit because I still biffed a couple things, but it helped me a lot. And I ended up opting for like easy mode equipment. I had there's like 1, 2, and 3 star equipment, right? And I had the 3 and 2 star of the same equipment that like reduced my incoming damage, and then 2 and 3 star that increased my shield capacity. So I was like taking reduced damage, increased shield, and then I was on story mode. So like this game couldn't have been easier uh, the way I played it, but I still encountered difficulty. Um, but now that's all done. I'm reloaded my save, and now I'm just doing everything. I'm just picking away at side quests, like, and some are really cool. Like I've found a couple optional bosses that were a little challenging, but pretty unique. The game overall, I feel like, ended up being a bit shorter than I expected. Not that that's a bad thing. I actually kind of, especially with a game that's difficult like this, in my opinion. Um, like the on the shorter side, it was actually quite nice because now I know, like when I wrap up everything and I'm ready to gun it to the end again, that I don't have to spend another 12, 15 hours to get there. It's only like give or take 6 hours. So I'm considering going for the platinum. That's what I'm working towards. Um, but we'll see. I'm doing like sessions of it here and there at this point. Um, like maybe 1 to 3 times a week, I play it for like maybe 2 or 3 hours. So it is going to be a bit till I get the platinum, but it's definitely fun. And I kind of wish the fishing had more to it because I did have fun doing it, but I'm completely done it. So I just would be fishing for no reason at this point. Um, yeah, I definitely recommend the game. And I hope we get a sequel or something else from this studio. That's like a console level game because it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, before I throw it to Mark, one thing I'll say to you, I was looking up early on in the game, I was like, "Oh, I'm curious like what you can see for how many outfits you can get access to." And if the website I was looking at is correct, apparently what they did when they added New Game Plus in the post update, because it wasn't there at launch, but like when you go through with New Game Plus, everything that you do that would have got you a costume gets you a variant of that outfit. So like apparently they just like all the outfits in the game have variants that you can get through New Game Plus. Could be wrong because like websites are always like finicky, but they did have images, so it looked legit. But yeah, so like in terms of like fishing, if you ever went and replayed it again, there should be a variant of the fishing outfit.
I'll have to look it up because the variants that I know of from New Game Plus, like it's just the exact same with a different like color palette, which is, you know, color is a big part of the aesthetic, right? When think of Destiny, how many shaders we go through trying to find the right one, right? So that definitely is a cool aspect. But the question is it enough for me to do a New Game Plus? I don't know.
To throw something in there, I'm pretty sure it's not all of the outfits. I think there's only like 3 or 4 that
Oh,
get a variant. Because I actually did start a New Game Plus because I did not know about that save thing when I finished the game, which is basically the only reason why I haven't platinumed it, because I have to rerun through the whole game. I'll get back to it eventually, but yeah, like I have found a couple of the variants of the costume. But yeah, it's just a different color scheme
oh,
on the costume essentially. But the one of the costumes you get for starting a New Game Plus is really nice.
nice.
Oh, is that the spoiler related one?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that one does look pretty cool. That's all I
Right.
can say.
That's all you can say. All right. Yeah. So, Mark, do you see yourself revisiting it anytime soon?
Yeah, no, I definitely want to go back and finish the platinum for sure. It was a very fun game. The combat and everything's good. I did enjoy the story. Like as Anthony was saying, like it wasn't anything groundbreaking story wise, but they did present it very very nicely. Like I was able to predict a lot of stuff that happened like super early on in the game, but like you can only tell so many stories so many times, right? Like trying to come up with a new groundbreaking story thing that hasn't been told already is hard to do. So you just got to try and present a version of a story as best as you can, which I think they did very well. And it also helps it a lot that the game was a lot of fun. The combat was great. All the mechanics in it was a lot of fun. Visually, just a stunning game. So like it had something no matter where you looked at with that was like a positive in at least some respect for most people who enjoy that style of game. So yeah, like it's a great game. I will eventually get back to it. Uh, yeah, it's just, anyone who hasn't tried it yet, who's been wanting to, as Chris said, they should still have their demo out to try, which is like the first mission of the game. So like it's a lot of fun. You get a nice little taste of the combat and how it works. And yeah, you go up to the pretty much like the first boss in the first kind of like free roamy area. But yeah, it's a great game. Anyone who's wants to pick it up, try it out. I would highly recommend it. Yeah,
Yeah, I figured this
wonderful
too. One of the
experience.
motivations for this was I time to kill leading toward Black Myth Wukong when that comes out this month. And I was kind of in
Yeah.
that mood for like that action combat. So that was definitely one of the things that enticed me, which yeah, to echo what you said, if you like really solid action combat, definitely recommend. One of the things I'll touch upon real quick too, that has actually made boss fights a bit easier is the top slot equipment. I don't know if like either of you guys used it, but like there was one I came across where when you fully upgrade it, it makes it easier to perfect parry and perfect dodge. That thing is super helpful. So like if anybody does get into that, I recommend keeping an eye out for that, and that'll like if you're not good with that kind of stuff, it'll make life easier for you for sure.
You know, was another great tip I saw was I don't know how many bosses this is applicable to because I didn't know about it till later on, but if you equip the shotgun shells to your for your gun, there's certain like choreographed attacks that bosses will do that when they go to start it, if you just quickly shoot them with just a single shell, it staggers them and then they stop doing that attack. And then they go into different behaviors until they eventually go back to that attempt that attack. So if there's like a specific attack that it works on that is lethal and you know about that, you can like quickly aim, shoot your shotgun, and then like go back to fighting. And it helped me quite a bit actually in that run to the end on a few of them.
Yeah, the gun is definitely one of the things I'm enjoying a lot. The ammunition, like not so much. But then again, you can get ammo super easily. It's just like if you want to go long periods without going back to a camp. But to be fair, like they have a lot of camps set up in the
There
areas.
is you'll have something to look forward to on your way to the end, Chris. It's something I won't say what it is, but it's something I kind of wish we had more of throughout the game. Um, just like mechanic wise and stuff. It would have been really. It's really cool when you experience it. But it would have been cool if we saw more of things of that nature. I know I'm not saying what it is, so no one really knows. Unless you played, you don't know what I'm talking about. But believe me, Chris, you'll probably know what I'm talking about when we get there. When you get there.
It's just like fully
One
naked.
other one other thing to point out as well. So, you found any of those like collectible pop cans
Yeah.
that she finds? So, there are certain mile markers. When you collect the cans, you have to actually go to the vending machine in like the little camp that they have inside the town where like the ship and Lily and Adam are all waiting at. When you go up and interact with that, and then it like updates the progress in the cans, it will expand your inventory for a lot of things. So you can actually get more inventory room for your like all your bullets and stuff like that if you collect the cans.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
I only got the first like couple, but like just even like those upgrades for the health potions have been super crucial and all that.
yeah. I didn't know about like when I returned to play and I did that like end game stretch there. I didn't know about that until basically I went to do from point of no return to the end. So basically, almost 2/3 of the game I was running off of minimal capacity like potions and like pulse grenades or whatever your grenade of choice was. So that probably would have helped me make the game a little bit easier in the earlier boss fights, but whatever. It's too late now.
Well, just think about it this way: you technically beat those boss fights with a handicap, so like there's something you
Yeah,
can.
I'm handicapped.
I mean, you said it. I mean, all right. Any final thoughts on Stellar Blade before we move on?
Stick it in your mouth.
Give us a sequel.
All right. The next up, we have Cat Quest 2. Long overdue to hear Anthony talking about this game. It's about time he finally starts playing it. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I played the first one a little bit on my phone like years and years ago, and it was cool, but it's just phone controls, right? Like covering portions of the screen with your thumbs. Like there's only certain game styles I find very compatible with that format, and this wasn't really one of them. But I enjoyed like what was there. So I noticed it was on the extra catalog, so I downloaded it. And it's a great game. I don't know how long it is. It doesn't seem like it's going to be too long, but it's simple. I haven't been paying attention to the story. I don't care so much about that, but it's like an isometric view, and you have 4 spells you can equip. They're all the back buttons like R2, R1, L1, R2, L2. Yeah, and you have a dodge and an attack button, and then you can either equip like a staff, which will shoot magic, or a melee weapon, and then the armor you equip. It doesn't seem to be like a defense stat unless the armor says adds this much defense. So like for example, if I'm wearing mage armor, it's not like oh mage armor has less armor on it. It's just there's no armor stat um, on it at all. It does when you level it up is it increases whatever the stat on it is. So in this case, I'm using fire. So my armor says plus 15 fire damage on it, and it's fairly simplistic. But I just before we hopped on tonight, I unlocked an ability where when when I dodge, if I press attack right away, you'll dodge, and then like I'm using magic on my guy. Instead of doing like a attack, like I'll dodge and go and shoot out like a barrage of spells. I don't know what it looks like with the melee because it doesn't specify it's only magic. It just says dodge and do an attack to do like a I forget what they call it, but some sort of flurry of attacks. I don't know, maybe with the weapon you like do a bunch of stabs or something.
I think it's like usually flourish or something like that.
Okay, yeah. And you have a companion, a dog, that you can actually play couch co-op and it's drop in, drop out. So it's like my save file or anyone that just shows up here, say like my kid, I don't know if he could handle this game specifically because of the gear management, but he could just grab a controller, drop in, and control the second player at any point and drop out, which is really cool. But either way, the AI is. I'm playing on the easy difficulty, so I don't know if this is why, but the AI is insanely good. Like, he takes practically no damage. He dodges every attack. Like, he plays flawlessly, so it's great. I don't have to worry about that. I built him like a tank. He's got like a big two-handed weapon that pluses to his armor. His armor's all tanky and stuff, and then I'm a magic wielder. Um, Lots of side quests. The world map that you traverse is pretty interesting. The way they designed it, and because it's like you see the name, like it's almost like you're looking at like a real map, but you're walking on it at the same time, and that's the whole map. And there's like random little dungeons everywhere, and it's just somewhat grindy. Like you just do all these dungeons to get like first time completions. Oh, and there's only one of every item in the game. How it works is you can either pay money at like a merchant, like a wizard to upgrade your spells, or like a blacksmith for your armor, or like a swordsmith for your weapons or whatever. But every chest you find in the game, you have a chance to find an item you already have, but you don't get two. What it does is it just levels up the one you have in your inventory. And it's dependent on the level of like the dungeon you find it in. So like for example, earlier I was playing and I found a second electric staff, so my electric staff went from level 6 to level 9. So I think that's actually really cool because zero inventory management, which is great coming from someone who plays, a lot of Diablo style games, or Diablo 4 was probably one of the more egregious ones, or actually even fucking First Ascendant. Inventory management is just annoying as hell. So that idea is actually really cool. I understand though it only really works in a game as simple as this because you don't have random affixes on the weapons and stuff. It's like a fixed stat on every single item. So that's probably why it works so well here. But no, I'm having a lot of fun, and I pretty much guarantee now that I am going to be playing the third one when it comes out. I just don't know where, because I do have that gift card on Steam, so I could do it there, but I would prefer PlayStation. So
Get that platinum, you know.
yeah, so I don't know. It depends on if I feel like forking over the $25 for it or not, which is likely. Um, but yeah, I definitely. If you guys are ever like, I have nothing to play and I want something short just to kill time. Um, Maybe look up like on PSN profiles or whatever, like the rating difficulty for the platinum. Because if it's really low, I guarantee you guys could blow through this game and get a platinum pretty quick for what's there. And it doesn't feel like it's going to be a big time commitment. Like I'm sitting at, I think about 3 or 4 hours played, and I'm almost level 50. The max level is I think 99. So uh, yeah, it's really cool. The third one actually, it looks pretty cool. It's pirate themed, so looking forward to that.
Mark, is this something you see yourself fucking with in the future?
See, I have actually seen this because it's on the catalog. I have actually looked at them like this looks pretty interesting. Like if I have nothing else to do, I might throw it in there, just waste some time. So hearing Anthony describe it does actually make me kind of want to play it more. So it definitely has piqued my interest in wanting to get it to try it because I mean like it doesn't cost me anything, so might as well give it a shot. I'm just looking up the platinum thing
It
right now.
it's a very different game
Fourteen
from
point
this,
eight
but
percent of players have earned. So yeah, that's a pretty high percentage for a platinum.
it it's very different from this game I'm about to say. But it gives me a big vibe of like that Nobody Saves the World or whatever.
Okay.
Where it was just like
Okay.
very arcadey feely, like just a quick, simple experience, like you know, kind of similar vein of that game. I feel like.
Yeah, I think that game was fun. Just a nice, quick, like semi-grindy game just to run through. It was a pretty fun one.
Yeah, I enjoyed my time with that. And like honestly, the combination of the comparison to that and like an easy platinum, it's definitely like on the list of things. It is just one of those things where it's like I have like my current I think it depends on Stellar Blade, how long I end up spending with that. Because it's basically once Black Myth Wukong comes out, I'm playing that. I'm playing Concord, and then like 11 days later, Star Wars Outlaws comes out, and then 8 days after that, Astrobot comes out. So it's like a bombardment of things I really want to play. And then October, you get toward, or like November-ish is like Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty. There's like so much shit, man. Too many games. But like you said, Mark, it's in the catalog, so it's a free price of entry. So it's definitely in there for when I want a cool, chill, quick little platinum. Definitely.
Yeah, and this says here estimations and varies person to person, but it says about 9 to 12 hour platinum.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
No,
Those are
yeah.
super quick. All
Yeah.
right.
But definitely situational, like you said, Chris, based on the releases that are coming out or any other priority backlogs that you want to revisit, kind of thing. But definitely something worth checking out if you end up having the time slot for it, for something.
Yeah, because I know, like, in terms of short experiences, at the back of my mind, I eventually want to play Jean d'Arc, and then Ratchet and Clank Size Matters, the PSP games that got added to like the premium tier and all that.
Mhm.
Like, since they're PSP games, those are typically quick, so I usually save them for nice little like quick burst platinums, which is what I did with Daxter way back when I talked about that. But
Oh, right. Yeah.
any final thoughts on Cat Quest 2 before we move on?
No, but I
Yeah.
am looking forward to number 3.
Meow. All right, next up we got Marvel Rivals. All right, Mark, you weren't here last week, so you didn't get to say your thoughts. I'm curious, like with the beta ending, how are you feeling about this game?
Honestly, it was I didn't go into it with a whole lot of expectation like high expectations of the game. But like I knew it was probably going to be pretty fun, like just playing it with you guys. But like it surprised me how much I enjoyed it, just because like the silliness of some of the characters they have in there, and just like the combos and everything you get when you have certain characters in, and like the one character ended up being my favorite, Jeff the Shark. It was just like all around it was a pretty surprising game, and like just for the beta as well, so like things should get even better on the full release. But yeah, it was just it was a lot of fun. Like it didn't really like they only had like the few maps to play, but even then running through the maps it was always kind of fresh because like the enemy team, it like there's such a large roster in the beta where the enemy team could be a completely different composition, so you have to change up your style. Like for example, as we encountered many times when there was a Spider-Man on the other team that knew what they were doing, it's just like, okay, the moment we see Spider-Man, kill him as fast as possible and then focus on everything else. But yeah, it's just like it's a lot of fun. It's like I don't usually tend to go towards like the healing class, but like when I encountered Jeff the Shark, that was just so much fun. Just running behind the team, just spraying water all over them constantly, and eventually shooting a couple of attack bubbles out at the enemies. Yeah, like overall, it was a really fun game. I'm looking forward to the full release, seeing how many more like heroes and stuff gets added. I'm sure they'll do some like newer game modes and maps and stuff to look forward to. But yeah, like overall, it's a really good experience. I think they crushed it, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for that game.
Yeah, I think with it all being said and done, like I know the PlayStation itself says 30 hours. Obviously the game, I think in game, like for like just match time, I think I'm at like I was at like 19 hours when we called her quits. But like to get like that much enjoyment and time out of it for just like a beta with, like you said, Mark, a limited amount of maps is just really impressive to me. Yeah, they nailed it with the characters. I think one of the things I really appreciate about this game is something like I've noticed with our group is like the variety and difference in all these characters and how they play, like everyone can kind of find their character. Like you said, Mark, you with GF the shark, your boy GF, Anthony with Luna Frost, and obviously like it took some time to really get into the rhythm of them because like I rarely ever play tank characters in other games, but like getting into the rhythm of Venom and like being at points where like I'm fighting like 4 members of the team and you guys are just healing me and like it's just chaotic fun. I love it. I can't wait for the full release. It feels like forever away. I need it now. But I'll have to be patient. So Anthony, you having spent more time in this, and again, it as we discussed last week, it is not something you really played previously. This type of game before, like having put more time into it. Where are your thoughts at for it?
Yeah, I definitely had fun with it. It's a kind of game where I could see myself easily be willing to jump in 1 to 2 times a week for like a 2-hour session at minimum. What would increase that would be like, so right now, like the permanent unlocks were the Venom skin and then that nameplate, right? Neither of them really interest me because I don't really, maybe one day, but at the moment I don't ever plan on trying to play Venom. And the nameplate I didn't care much. Like the Venom part was cool, but the Adam Warlock, like I barely even know who Adam Warlock is besides he was in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Or
Yeah,
he was in a movie, I can't remember.
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
3. Yeah.
So I don't really know. Then granted, the actor that played him, like I like that actor, he did really good. But I don't really know that character. I have no attachment, so I didn't care about that. So I had nothing. The only reason I was showing up for this was to play with you guys, and I was having fun with it. But even though it's a game style I don't generally gravitate towards, um, I had enough fun that I was willing to stick around in a session for up to maybe 3 hours or so. Not every session was that long, but I think I did maybe 2 sessions during the beta that were about 3 hours along with you guys. However, once it releases though, and we have like there's more content there. There's like an established battle pass with rewards. Like we kind of see what the rewards look like what the mechanism is for new characters on how you get them. If they're just I doubt they're just handed to you, like probably battle pass unlocks. And who are they, right? So once we see that, if it's things that entice me, that would be something to pull me into that game more than just once or twice a week, and for more than just like an hour or two a session, because then there's something that I want to chase to unlock. And cosmetics, I know they don't change anything, but like almost every game I play, that's almost half the reason I play the game at this point. So um, I am looking forward to when it comes out, just to kind of see what that looks like. And I hope like the art style is really cool. So like and like the way the characters are modeled, they look great. Like the female characters look feminine, the male characters look masculine. I won't get into more of why that's important to me, but you don't see it a lot in newer games these days. So and then the art style too is very comic book feely, and it matches so good with like the character models. So I'm excited to see what kind of skins we get, what new characters. It's just the unfortunate thing is it's not till next year, right? So waiting game now.
Good old waiting. Yeah, one of the things I really
Oh, yeah.
appreciated, going back to the cosmetics, was something we weren't really able to discover until late this week. And when I saw like the Venom cosmetic, my initial thoughts were like, because it's like the blue, it's like the Marvel versus Capcom vibes. That outfit, I was like, oh, that's cool. Like chances are it's just him. That's just blue. Like the tendrils and stuff, his attacks are gonna stay like the typical black. But like they went and put like all of his abilities were like the same color, like so it fit the symbiote. Like it looked natural. Like even like before we started matches, like when I'm just like chilling up on a ceiling, like some of like the symbiote will like attach to the ceiling, like even those small little details, like they made blues well. So I think it just something like that gives me really good hope for the amount of attention to detail they're going to put into like cosmetics for other characters once the full game releases, which like I really appreciate. Like I could see like take for example Luna Snow, Anthony, like depending on like the outfits, like maybe you'll get different color ice, Mark, for you different color like water, like based off what they go with, like just cool stuff like that. Like I think that just kind of makes you stand out a bit more, because there are moments in our matches or when I would do like my venom attack like with the blue skin, I thought I was Jeff for a second because I thought it was like water. I was
Oh man, it's
but
funny.
yeah, no, I'm very happy with that. And yeah, 2025 needs to get here ASAP. Any final thoughts on Rivals before we move on?
Nope.
All right.
Look forward to it.
All
See
right.
how it does when it's fully released.
All right. So Anthony, tell us about Batman Arkham Asylum.
So I've been here. So when we were playing Marvel Rivals, I dropped a bit of an Easter egg. It was early on in the game, and I didn't know if it persisted, so I didn't expect you, Chris, to pick up on it. But I referred to Doctor Strange as Doctor Spooky. Does that ring a bell at all to you?
Not at
I
all.
don't. Okay, so I started playing Marvel Midnight Suns,
Oh shit.
and it's what can I so it's I've been having a lot of fun with it so far. The um the character interactions are great. It's weird. Like there's certain points I'm at like the mansion place and I'm like it's been over probably 2 decades since I've played Knights of the Old Republic, but like I randomly start feeling vibes that I had back then just with like the social part of like talking to them, picking their options, having conversations with them. It was really cool. The exploration of the grounds is really cool. The social system of like doing the hangouts um, and whatnot have been really cool. A lot of the jokes have been on point. The only couple of them have fell flat for me, and the ones I did were like Tony Stark. Some of his sarcastic lines, like they've all been good, but there's been a couple where I was like, you know. But for the most part, like I'm generally surprised by like how good the writing seems to be for a lot of the characters, even the ones that I have no idea who they are, like this chick from the Runaways. I forget her name. The staff of one wielder chick. I can't remember her name, but
I know the
she
one you're talking about, but I
yeah,
forget
she
her
got like
name.
piercings all over her face and stuff. I think they didn't they do a show about that,
They
the
did. I
Runaways.
think it only had like 1 or 2 seasons though. It was not really
Not well.
successful.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Um, now where the problem I think lies for me so far is so the combat. Okay, so it's card based, which I've so there's one thing where I'm like I don't like playing tactics games generally, right? I've dabbled in them and I understand the concept and stuff, which this has aspects of that, right? But the card system games, like I almost have less interest in that than I do tactics games. But everything around the combat I'm enjoying so much that I'm trying to like endure that aspect. And the functions about combat that aren't the actual combat taking place are cool. Like the getting dupes of a card and powering it up and like doing getting unlocks and stuff like that. Like that part's cool. And so far it seems I'm not like crazy far in the game. I think I'm like somewhere maybe like 5 or 6 hours. That when I do embark on a mission, it's not like 3 hours of like card-based tactics fight after card-based tactics fight. It's like very not very many of them. So it I do like the fact that they're kind of drip fed so far. I'm sure there'll be a point where like you get rewarded for grinding, maybe revisiting old missions. I'm not sure, but I'm sure at that point if I do that though, I'll be overpowered enough where they're not as slow moving and stuff. Even though I know slow moving is kind of the nature of these games. So I'm who knows, maybe by the end of this game, if I stick it out, that my opinion on this genre could change a little bit. Because some of the attacks you do are really cool. Like who was it? Ghost Rider. I had enough of the meter filled, and he had this card where he got in a vehicle and just ran across the map, and I just KO'd like 5 guys in one go. So like the animations for the moves you do are like really good. Like even Captain Marvel, she did this like photon beam across the map. Like all that's cool. It's just I don't like. I couldn't even. I think it's just because of the randomness of the cards. I have no. I feel like I'm not in control as I would be, say, like a standard turn-based RPG, or even to the degree of like a tactics game where you have a little more control on what you do per turn. Um, but maybe I'll come around to it. At the very least, everything else around that I've found to be enjoyable enough that I want to endure the aspects I don't like so far. Um, and I know about like all these just from talking to you, Chris, and like seeing stuff online, like all the different characters you can get, and like I'm assuming a lot of them have different cosmetics because I know I saw in the store you could actually buy some as well. So I assume there's some in game you can unlock, which again, like I said, half the game a lot of times for me is cosmetics. So I'm curious to see. And then actually the main character in the story so far seem really cool. Like I'm not the biggest guy into like more like the comic stuff. There's certain things I like, but I'm very surface level fan. But like this stuff where it's like right away, it's like it's centered around um the villain that you meet pretty much right away, so it's not a spoiler. Like this Lilith, and it has to do with like demons, and Wanda's involved, which is probably one of my more favorite Marvel characters because she's like her power is very like demonic, like chaos based, right? Like she's involved with it, and then like it's all about like magic and sorcery. It's not more leaned into like your typical like Spider-Man where it's just like superpowers we fight, right? So it's like the mystical aspect of it, like that stuff really interests me. So I'm actually really digging the story and like how who the main character is and like the role you're playing is really cool. And even his abilities so far have been cool. Oh, and the light and dark meter. Again, that's the Knights of the Republic kind of feel, right? Where depending on my responses that I choose, I could like um, sway in different directions. And I like that it tells you like right in the response that if you choose this, it's a light answer or a dark answer. And then there's cards you get for your character that are I don't know if you because it seemed like I'm not sure what the restrictions will be, but it seems like there's dark and light optional cards. And I don't know if like if I use them if it would push me in that direction or not, or if I unlock them by being further in a direction or something. We'll see, but maybe you could tell me, Chris. But so far it's been a pretty good experience. I just need to endure the battle. So, and I'm playing on easy, so thankfully it's like I'm not sitting here losing these fights, right? So, which would be another big factor if I chose like a higher difficulty and I had to like keep redoing a fight. That would probably make me stop playing the game pretty quick. But the fights aren't hard. It's just the mechanics I'm not a big fan of.
Yeah, for I guess what you said. Well, I will say this right there. I fucking thought I had you with Batman Arkham Asylum because on your TV, like earlier when you were talking about Cat Quest, I saw the Batman Arkham Asylum logo. I'm like, he's gonna start fucking talking about Batman Arkham Asylum. So like, I got him, and then you're like, so yeah, Midnight Suns, and I'm like, fuck. But
I did before I booted up Midnight Suns. I did boot up that game though, and I will say, like, I'm not jumping into it yet. It is on my plan, but it looks like I know it's like a remaster version, I believe, but like it looks really good. Like the textures and stuff. I was generally surprised because I know it came out like PS3 generation,
yep,
I think, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
mid
so I
PS3.
was not expecting that level of polish. At least, like I'm not sure so much on the gameplay mechanic wise. Like if it's still if yeah, we'll see when I get there, but looks really good.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, from what I remember, so I will give you a heads up for this. Like Stellar Blade, if this is something you want to go for the platinum for, um, everything is obtainable for the most part in the first playthrough. Like there are two trophies, one tied to maxing out your light meter, one maxing out your dark meter. you could do like a save exploit thing similar to Stellar Blade, but like honestly, what I did, I played my playthrough. I maxed out on light, and then once I hit maxed out on light, I just started working on the dark, and then went right into like a new game plus, and then midway through that new game plus, I finished off like the dark meter. I th- I can't remember. I think specifically when you hit certain points, you unlock like certain light and dark based cards, but like they're permanently unlocked. Because like for my guy, I really made him like a strong healer, like a support for my team. But then when I started going the dark path, when like those abilities go into something else, I still had access to all those healing abilities, from what I recall.
Oh, okay.
But no, Midnight Suns was a fantastic game. One game, Mark, actually, I recommend you playing. It's on PlayStation Plus. But I think
It's out on there.
the best pitch I can give for you, Mark, is in terms of gameplay and even like story beats. Kind of think of like a very simple Baldur's Gate, right? Like they take aspects of, like Anthony said, like the dialogue choices and stuff like that, not as crazy as Baldur's Gate. The gameplay itself is tactics very similar to Baldur's Gate, but it's like all done through cards, as Anthony said. So it's a very simplified Baldur's Gate with just a Marvel theme on top of it that's just really well executed. I Yeah, it doesn't have the DLC, right? Like with the PlayStation Premium, or the Ascent or Extra.
I don't think so.
They usually don't come with that stuff.
Yeah, it's very
The other
rare.
thing too is with the card combat system is like the characters each can only have so many cards assigned to them. So it's not like, say you have 3 characters. It's not like you have like 20 options for each character. Like, so you can kind of control in a way like what you're gonna do. Say if you, I imagine if you have like Ghost Rider and you really like 3 abilities that he has, you could just get multiples of those 3 abilities and fill his like 8 slots or however many, or if you only have, you know what I mean? So you can somewhat control the randomness in a way, I suppose, once you get a little further in and start getting more cards unlocked and stuff. So
Yeah, there's like, yeah, as Anthony said, there's like a lot of abilities you can unlock per your characters, and like, yeah, and that strat of just like, what do I want to spec into? You don't get access to them unless you have the DLC. Like basically, I never played this at launch because like they announced like the season pass ahead of time, and they're like, we're gonna do Deadpool, Venom, Storm, Morbius, and like I'm gonna wait till Venom releases, and that's when I play, obviously. So once he released, Deadpool was already out, so like I started specking those guys into my team. I will say the one thing that sucks with Venom is he's very story tied to it. So I had to wait to a decent chunk in the game to actually be able to unlock him. As for like all the other characters, you could pretty much go for them almost right off the bat. Yeah, tons of outfits you can choose from. If I remember correctly, it has like a shader like system, Anthony, where like each outfit, will have like different color variants to it. But yeah, you'll definitely get a good chunk of outfits to choose from. Mark, what are your thoughts on Midnight Suns?
So first, I kind of fully dissociated for like a minute after you announced the topic, and then I tuned back into Anthony talking about. I'm like, this isn't fucking Arkham. What the hell is he talking about? I'm like, what fucking Batman game is he going on about right now? I'm like, cards. I'm like, it's Batman. You just beat the shit out of criminals.
Oh my
And
God.
I'm like, okay, somehow I missed something, and I went on to his trophies. I'm like, okay, they must be talking about Midnight Suns or something like that, because like, I'm like, Ghost Rider, Iron Man. I'm like, what the like? They aren't in the Batman. They're not even the same fucking universe. What the hell? Yeah, so eventually, yeah, did. But yeah, I was you did get me with that. But yeah, no, the game sounds like a lot of fun. It's to hearing him talk about, I genuinely thought this was a way different. I thought this was like one of like a Mortal Kombat-esque style game, so I didn't even look twice at it. Now that I know it's like that, I'm definitely way more interested in picking it up. So yeah,
Hey.
I definitely will put it onto my list.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't help that I was super confident with Arkham Asylum, and Anthony just like breezed right past it, and then just
Yeah, like I tuned back into him saying something about Iron Man. I'm like, what? It's like he's talking about cards and the battle system and tactics. I'm like, what? Batman game? What? How did I miss this entire fucking thing? Like they're even from the same universe. What the fuck's going on? But yeah, so that makes a lot more sense.
it was all worth it for that in the end, because that'll definitely be a nice clip right there.
So it doesn't look like it comes with it, but it does say the season pass is on sale for $22 till the 15th.
Nice. Yeah, that should give you access to all four characters, and like each four characters have their own storyline, like basically that revolves around you getting them. I only did Deadpool and Venom's, but the nice thing about these characters is they're fully designed to blend in to the story. So like they don't feel out of place. Like I can't go into things because of spoilers, but like like by the time I finished the game, I honestly could have been like, oh, these characters weren't DLC. Like they were there the whole time. Because like obviously
Oh, no.
Venom, like the relationships and stuff like that, like you build with like friendships and all that, like it was perfect. So like they did a really fantastic job with the game itself and the DLC.
So far, I'm pretty early on. I know there's probably lots of characters that are going to be showing up that I don't have yet, but man, fucking Blade is badass. He's probably so far my favorite of all the characters I have access to right now.
Blade was one of my go-tos. Magic was pretty solid. But yeah, once like I unlocked the Venom and knew his rhythms and shit, he has like this one area of attack thing that like I would start like around and I would obliterate like 6 random enemies with it. He was just like so overpowered. But yeah, so any eyes on who you're gonna romance, Anthony? You know?
I got it. So I don't know what the roster. Maybe like it might be slightly spoiler territory, but I should look up a roster of like who I'm gonna unlock. Because I was thinking about that, but I'm looking at what I have access to right now, and it's like Captain Marvel, the Staff of One chick, Magic. I think that might be it. Unless I want to romance a dude, but I'm not. I went with the male character, so which I mean, he looks fun. Like the character customization, it's minimal, but like it's pretty decent. And the outfits, like I can't unlock most of them right now, but a lot of the outfits look really cool. Like the what do you call that? Like the home base outfits, you know? Because I know that there's your combat armor cosmetics as well. Or I don't know if are they cosmetics or do they give you stats? I'm not sure. I assume just cosmetic, but
I think just
that's
cosmetics. I believe.
cosmetic. Okay, yeah, and that's cool too because you have like 2 outfits basically. So,
And
but as far as
I was
go
gonna say,
ahead.
I think you can also customize their swimsuits, right?
Oh, there's swimsuits too. No shit. I did notice that. I was
Oh
walking
shit! I might
around and
spoil that for.
I noticed there was like a place you could be swimming at, and I was like, ooh, but it's good to know.
Spend
Now
some
I'm gonna
time
look
at the
up
pool.
all the female characters in their swimsuits. That's what's gonna determine who I romance.
And now Anthony is fully in. There's no backing out. All right. Any final thoughts on not Batman Arkham Asylum, but Marvel Midnight Suns? All right.
Oh, that
Next.
was me.
Oh, what?
I zoned in for a second. Yeah, it's great. I'm gonna keep pushing through. Uh, Yeah, I think I'll come around more to the card thing once I get more characters and more cards for the characters I like. Because so far, like some of the characters I use are characters where I'm like, I don't want you in my party, but I don't have any other options. Kind of feel right now. So the more characters I have, I think I'll come around to it to some degree. And then when I can, more customize their deck to my liking, I just got to stick it out to get to that point before I risk falling off. But I think I'm in it enough right now that I'm not too worried about falling off. So yeah.
It's also worth noting too, some of the card abilities that make them really good for clearing groups is like you'll have knockback attacks, where it's like basically like you do the attack and it will knock them back, but like there will be environmental hazards where like you knock them back into like a barrel, it blows up and damages enemies like around them. But then you'll also have, I think they're either called like pull or yank attacks, where it's like you like
Oh, like the
chain
whip
them,
kind
yeah,
of.
and then you can yeet them at like other enemies and stuff like that. So it's really cool how they do the abilities in that game.
Yeah, yeah. And the animations again,
Oh,
really good.
all right. So next up, we got No Man's Sky. Mark, you've been hopping back in because you said there was a new expedition. Tell us about it.
Yeah, they did a new expedition. I already got to the end of it, but like there's still some new stuff, like a new sort of like thing they put in for the expedition. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. They introduced like a new kind of like little boss enemy type that you can fight. It's like this giant uh, monstrosity bug thing that you have to kill several of them when you're going through to the different liquidation points. Yeah, it was interesting going through it, especially because like I haven't fully explored it since they released all the graphic updates as well. So like flying through a lot of the planets and stuff now, like the atmospheric effects, like the new water effects and all that stuff, it definitely adds a new experience to the game. Yeah, I don't really like there is story to these expeditions, but I just like unlocking all the armor and ships and stuff like that when I play them. And also it's just like it's nice having little objectives to follow. And pretty much with the expeditions, I think I explained this last time, but you start with a fresh save. So like you don't go into it with your already tuned out guy. You start with a brand new one, and then like it gives you like rapid unlocks for your characters as you're going through. So as long as you're playing, like you don't have to grind out massive amounts of things in order to make your character viable. They will increase like exponentially as you're just doing the missions. But yeah, it was a fun expedition. It started off pretty interesting with like this big abomination thing in the sky. I tried to fight it, but it almost killed me immediately, so I ignored it. Yeah, the game's a lot of fun, and they keep on releasing new stuff for it. And like this game's pretty old at this point, so it's nice that they keep on overhauling it, adding like new things to make it nice and fresh. And yeah, like even some of like the random creatures and stuff they have walking around, like it's like, oh well, yeah, that's that's definitely new, and that's definitely not something I'm going near because that thing looks terrifying. But yeah, it was a fun experience. I have been seeing a lot of stuff on Reddit because I've been playing it. Of course, my phone, I didn't even look up No Man's Sky shit. And my phone's like, oh, No Man's Sky, that's all we're going to give you for your Reddit notifications now is No Man's Sky. And some of these people who are playing this game, their builds are freaking disgusting. Somebody made an entire city. They made an entire city. I lost the post, but I'm gonna try and find it again because like they have every planet kind of has like a little gate code, like think Stargate SG-1 and stuff like that. Where like you go up to it and you punch in like several random symbols, and then it'll bring you to a planet, and like every planet has its own assigned gate code. So like anytime someone finds anything, they'll put the gate code at the bottom of the thing. So this person built their thing, and you could just go there as long if you have the gate code, and it'll bring you somewhere in the galaxy where their base is, and you can explore it. So I definitely want to try that out because I can't even begin to guess how many hours this person put in to this city, because I put like 15 hours into one, and it's like a shack on the side of a river.
Did you end up trying the VR yet on it?
I keep on saying, "Oh, I should do the VR," and then I just get so zoned into playing it, and it's like, "Oh, it's been 6 hours. I should probably stop playing it for today." Yeah.
I'll send out like a message every hour. Did you do it? Did you do it? Just-
And I definitely do want to try the VR because, like, this game, there's so much shit to look at, and like playing it in VR with that's going to be a completely different experience. So hopefully soon I'll remember to play it in VR.
We're all counting on you.
Yeah.
All right.
The one thing I forgot to mention. So for this expedition, they added in a new community sort of goal. So it's like not just you have to do it, but it's like, because this one's like a liquidation expedition where pretty much like the goal is you point to point, and you're like getting rid of these creatures that are infesting the galaxy. So there's actually like a community goal where like it keeps track of everybody's progress and killing these things, and then like what each community goal unlocks a new piece of armor for everybody. But yeah, that's what I forgot to say earlier.
Anthony, any thoughts on No Man's Sky?
I'll probably at some point between now and the end of the year install it and give it another go, because I do get the urge to play some sort of survival crafting game. And even though I don't know if it's because we talked about it like an episode or two ago, but I have been seeing on my Reddit as well some No Man's Sky stuff. So, and I do own it. Like I bought it 50% off like a couple of years ago, probably. So maybe one of these days. I don't really have the time for it right now because there's lots of other stuff to play at the moment. But when I do get that urge, I think that might be the road I take. Give it another chance.
If you want somebody to explore the galaxy with, just let me know.
Just yeah, that might actually help, because I did the big part of what prevented me from continuing was it just felt really overwhelming, because at the point I jumped in, it had been out for I think a couple of years at that point as well. So there's just like a lot of content, a lot of like systems, and like with the base building, it a lot of the building in these games can be complex, but this one just felt a little more complex than some of the games I played. So
It's definitely broader in its sort of like execution of the having to gather your supplies, because like in order to get to some systems where like there's specific resources, you have to have a special sort of engine in your either freighter, if you're using your freighter to get around, or your starship, and like you can only get those materials from certain star colors. So like the first stars you can go to are always like just like yellow stars, and then in order to get to the red star, you have to get copper, refine it into chromatic metal, and then that's what you use to build the engine for to get to the red stars. And then you got to get indium from the red stars in order to build stuff to go to the blue stars. Then you got to get, I can't remember what the blue one is called, but you got to get that resource in order to build the engine to go to the green stars. And then the green one's like the last sort of like stellar body that you can get to. But then like for getting money, because like once you start getting into things that you want to like upgrade your fleet, because like you can get a freighter, then you can get frigates that go along with the freighter, and you could send them out on missions where it's just literally like it'll be gone for 12 real-time hours. And there's a really easy way to cheese farming money, so you can buy like really good frigates. I just made this one mining base, and then every once in a while, like once a day, I'd go to it and I'd collect like 40,000 of this resource that I was mining on that. I'd go to a system I hadn't been to. I'd sell it all for like almost $500 million. And then I would just let it build up again, and then I could buy whatever I want.
Okay. So they
Making
got
the
some
money.
strats.
Cash money.
Yep.
Yeah, I know. I've said it many times before. It's just it wasn't a game for me. I gave it an honest effort, but I don't know. Like, it's kind of like what I found. I think I said it before, but what I found with Starfield is like thing that took me out of it was like the space travel itself. Like, I know like that's the main selling point for it. So obviously it's just not a game that's meant for me. But it's just like I just wasn't huge on it.
So the one thing I have to say for this one is they actually have proper space travel, because I think I remember you guys saying like it's just all like quick loading into a planet sort of deal, and you're not actually like really flying through space to the planet sort of deal. This one, like, you literally have to fly from planet to planet.
Oh yeah.
And like sometimes it takes like you could get to a planet without using your pulse drive and stuff like that. But when you look at the timer, it says you'll get there in a week. And they're not saying like, oh, it's going to be a couple hours. Like, no, if you don't use your pulse drive, it will literally take a week. But also, like, the planets themselves too, like, they're massive. Each planet is like, in order to, if you were just to fly, because you can't use your pulse drive in atmosphere, if you were trying to fly from one end of the planet, like all the way around it and back, it would genuinely take you probably a full week of flying in order to do that. But you can just go out into the atmosphere and pulse drive around the planet in 2 seconds, and then go back into the atmosphere.
God damn.
Alright. Any final thoughts on No Man's Sky before we move on?
It's fun as shit. Get into it.
Next up, we have the big one. More Bungie layoffs. So first up, via Jason Schreier at Bloomberg, Bungie shrunk from 1,300 employees to roughly 850. Areas that were hit hard were audio, narrative, and player support. Cuts apparently include some high-level executives. Longtime veterans Luke Smith and Mark Noseworthy exited this week, according to people familiar, as did several other top leaders, leaving lingering questions about the future of decision-making at Bungie. One of the people laid off was a worker who was scheduled to go on maternity leave a week later, and was no longer eligible for maternity leave, unfortunately. So 220 people were laid off. The company is working on moving 150 other employees to Sony Interactive Entertainment to help support them. The remaining employees will spin out to a new game company within Sony to continue working on an incubation project called Gummy Bears. This is the second layoff within a year for Bungie. One of Bungie's big bets was Payback, an incubation project set in the Destiny universe that would shake up the formula in major ways, according to the people familiar. It would pivot from a first person to a third person perspective and allow players to use the franchise's characters to explore a large world while cooperating to battle monsters and solve puzzles. The pitch took elements from popular games such as Warframe and Genshin Impact. The remaining workforce that's left will be working on Destiny 2 and Marathon. This is from Steven Totillo, GameFile. Final Shape sold less than Lightfall. Bungie's leaders had overstated their studio's financial prospects to Sony, and Wednesday's cuts were needed to stop continued losses that amounted to an ongoing reality check. Then the studio's leadership allegedly wrote checks they couldn't cash, did not take the cuts to their own pay, laid off staff in October of last year, but knew for months that it wouldn't be enough, and yet still managed to have some employees find out they were losing their jobs via a Twitter announcement. The recent layoffs seemingly have had to do with the Final Shapes. The recent layoffs seemingly have little to do with the Final Shapes commercial performance either way, and could have been avoided, or couldn't have been avoided, even if the Final Shape had blockbuster performance. Then finally, via Paul Tassi of Forbes, in terms of how content seems to be going in the future outside of these episodes, 2 main releases a year, This is something akin to an old expansion on a smaller scale. This should include the basics like a new destination, raid, and campaign. But if there is a comparison point, it may harken back to something like Shadowkeep, Destiny 2's smallest mainline expansion. However, in terms of narrative, this should be when we leave the solar system and explore other worlds. It's unclear if this content is paid or free, though I imagine at least it would be cheaper than a current expansion, if nothing else. The second release would be 6 months later, and something more akin to Into the Light, a free content drop with a hopefully engaging activity and something meaningful to farm. The success of Into the Light inspired this idea. Between these is the least unclear, probably two pieces of content akin to seasons or episodes, but on what scale we don't know. There are mentions of temporary events called rallies during this time. Gummy Bear Info, the incubation project that was mentioned earlier, it's apparently a MOBA and has Smash Bro-ish fighting game elements. It's supposed to be supposedly very fun. Destiny 3 was considered and is still considered too much of a risk in the current market. The idea was instead to split up Destiny as an IP into more manageable components. The PvE portion we now have continuing in D2, payback for an adventure genre expansion, a mobile Destiny game from NetEase, and spinning out a separate 3v3 Crucible game channeling Trials. That's a lot to take in, a lot of information. Anthony, just what are your thoughts on all this?
I'm surprised. Like, Sony owns Bungie, right?
Mhm.
At this point in time, like, shouldn't they be like evaluating the option of like removing the CEO to some degree? Like, they would have the power to do that. They own them, right? I know, like, they have their own board. Like, Bungie has their own board. I know there's some Sony executives on the board, but like, they own them, and it's very like, it's one thing to talk about the amount of money that guy makes, and the whole thing about him buying all these vehicles. Sure, fair point. But that's not what I'm looking at. What I'm looking at is he is the CEO. Like, it's like, to me, it just sounds like he's not doing his job well enough. I know there's many moving parts, but at the end of the day, it lands on his feet, and it's like the whole thing about him, the money he makes and the cars and stuff. That's just a symptom of the problem. It's, I don't know. I think something has to be done there. I don't know what the answer is because I don't think outright just removing him would fix it, right? But I think him being in that position is definitely part of the problem. It sounds like to me. Um, as far as that payback, the description you gave for that's when you said they compared think games of like Genshin Impact
In Warframe?
and Warframe. That sounds really cool. Like, and that you're saying, did you say they're not doing that anymore, or that they are?
That is canceled.
That is canceled. Yeah, that is unfortunate because that sounds really cool. Whereas like this gummy bears thing, like I instantly is a no for me. Like, it's one thing at first, it's like gummy bears. I'm already like okay, but then you're saying it's supposed to be a MOBA. Is that what you said?
Yeah, with like
Yeah,
Smash Brothers like fighting elements, however the fuck that works.
that sounds like a bigger risk to me than I don't know. I don't know. It's this does a this sounds horrible overall, and I don't know. I really question what's going to happen with Destiny player base wise, like over the next year and a half. Like, I'm already like in my mind, I'm like I'm gonna continue to play when they put out new stuff this year. Like, we have a roadmap and whatnot um, for the episodes and stuff, but there is a real world. There is a path that exists right now where I only jump in, like, depending on how the next episode is received, like, where I just end up only jumping in for co-op play, and at the end of this year's expansion, like, I stop playing Destiny. Like, I don't see, like, I mean, I'll like The other thing too, you point out like the thing about into the light and like kind of running off that concept. They should at least acknowledge to some degree that a big factor there was the weapons we were grinding for were like reissued weapons, beloved classic weapons, slightly modified, of course, but like that was definitely a huge draw to like the consistent player numbers, and then the shinies of these returning weapons that D2 vets loved, right? Like that is a huge factor. Like they're not just going to be able to like I mean I know there's lots of vaulted content, but eventually they're going to run out of like is that what they're going to do every year, release like an Into the Light-esque thing where they just reissue other beloved weapons or something? I don't know. That has a shelf life, I feel like. Seems like Destiny has a shelf life at this point. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being cynical here, but yeah. I don't know if you did say quite a bit of information, so there's probably some things I'm forgetting you said, but it's all very unfortunate. Especially that I can't believe they laid that woman off. Like at the like think of how much money they just saved from that amount of people laying off. Like they couldn't honor the maternity leave for this woman. Like they're in the States, right?
Yeah.
United States.
Yeah.
I believe like it's not like she probably would have had like maybe 12 to 16 weeks where they topped up her pay. Like
Not that many weeks. The
well
state's
no
maternity leave's horrible.
no not the government sanction stuff like through your employer, right? Like they could have offered like for this many weeks when on your leave we'll top you up kind of thing. Like it's all a deal made with your employer with your contract when you work there and stuff. Like they might have a decent maternity leave like in their contract. Um Well, even let's err on the side of like quantity, right? Like let's say it was 16 weeks. 16 weeks of them not even full pay, just topping up to whatever they're eligible for in the state. I think in the states, don't they only get like 2 weeks, if that? Like for like as far as the government side of things, something really bad. Anyways, the point is like they couldn't have just honored that. Like, are they in such a bad situation that a couple months of pay to a single employee was going to break the camel's back? Like that is crazy. That is crazy. Like that woman is having a baby in the United States with arguably one of the worst support systems for not only healthcare, like the cost of having a baby there. I mean, I'm sure. Well, that's the other question. She would have had probably insurance through work, I assume, unless she
Yeah, no
was
more
outside
healthcare.
work. So did she lose her insurance now? Like, is she now gonna have to pay the entirety of the hospital bill instead of like 40% or however much her coverage might have been? Like that is just, I don't know. That as someone who has a kid, like I know I live in Canada, we have a far I don't know. I know people can debate it, but in my opinion, we have a far superior healthcare system here. Um, that's never something I have to worry about here. But like just putting myself in those shoes of like that is that's disgusting to me. Like I can't believe that.
Yeah, no, that was like easily by far like the most fucked up thing I was hearing about that story. I don't know like the specifics. Um but like the craziest thing too is like on top of all the things you mentioned is like this woman who's now having a baby who knows like if the insurance is covering it, and like now she has to deal with the stress of okay, I having a baby and now I have to try to find a job in an industry that has seen the most ever layoffs this entire year. Previously, I think the last year had the most like it immediately already like capped like last year's like layoffs from because I think it was about like a little under 11,000 people were laid off in the game industry last year. That number was exceeded from January to now by I think at this point close to 1,000 already.
So like half the time,
Yeah,
it's
it's
surpassed it. That's crazy.
yeah, it's real bad. Mark, what are your thoughts on all this?
Well, like it's unfortunately it's not something we haven't seen so many times before, and basically every single big company now. Like it just it's because all these companies are so beholden to just numbers. the investors don't give a shit about any of the people. They just care about that one number getting higher and higher and higher and higher. They don't care where the money comes from, just has to get higher. And like that's kind of been a problem with almost every single industry that has any sort of consumer base on like a like entertainment consumer base, like in anything. It's like it, as they were saying, like this was inevitable no matter how successful the launch was. Like why was that inevitable? Like we like let's roll this back right now. If your company was doing so bad, how come like going back to like I think the fact that the CEO is buying all these cars is kind of like it does kind of show the priority for these people, because like they're yeah, like I 100% agree with what you said, that like they should be looking into these CEOs and getting rid of them if they're so behind on their profits that they can't support their own working staff. But that's just not how it goes, because the CEO is basically just somebody who deals with the stockholders. They don't give a shit about anybody below their own station. They just care about the money that comes in. That's it. They want to appease the stockholders. That's all they care about. That's just the capitalistic society that we unfortunately find ourselves living in right now. Not to go on a tirade or anything like that, but like we've seen it in a lot of different industries. Like I know for my personal one that I like is like Wizards of the Coast. When for Hasbro, they had massive layoffs in Wizards of the Coast as well, which was literally their most profitable sector of their entire company. Like everything else that Hasbro owned, Wizards of the Coast was their top earner. Yet some reason they had to cut the fat off of their top earner in order to, meet the quotas and get those numbers up. Like it doesn't make sense. If these people are making money hand over fist for you, why do you have to get rid of them? Right. So like unfortunately, it's just kind of the byproduct of the society we're living in right now. And like everywhere, the only thing people care about is money, and that's unfortunately not going to change unless somebody makes that change. But anybody who's that high up on the totem pole is supported by stacks upon stacks upon stacks of money. So I don't see a way that this can get any better anytime soon until the companies pretty much implode on themselves, and then new ones kind of have to roll in and take their place. So it sucks. I hope they pull their heads over their ass and manage to figure out a good solution going forward, for just like this Destiny has been a part of our lives for a long time. So like I would be very keen to keep on playing it, but as Anthony said, like if all they're going to care about is money, like quality is going to be cut at some point, because you can't fire that many people who are so like key to the success of a game and expect that game to continue to be successful. Like the product's out right now, sure, but like what about the next project? Because if these people were integral into making this project, and like they had, even if it was behind the scenes work, because as we all know, the supervisors usually get the credit for a lot of the people's work, so they just can the person who did 70% of the work when it's done and say, oh, look at how great I did. Look at all the money I saved. So there's so many angles that you can come at this from, but unfortunately, when money is involved, it's logic kind of takes a back seat to a lot of things, I find. Hopefully we get something that makes sense soon with these larger companies, and they stop just firing everybody after a massive success so they can just make that number higher. Yeah, I can't really give you anything beyond that. It's disgusting. It shouldn't have happened, and they need to do better, and they need to set a better precedent, and people need to be held accountable for the failures of their company, like Anthony said, where you don't take it out on the working class people, you take it out on the people who are actually making as much money as pretty much their entire staff combined. Because I can guarantee you're going to make way more money by getting rid of the person who only points at something and says, make it happen, versus the people who actually make it happen.
Yeah. I don't know if it's like legit. I didn't include it in the write up, but it is heavily rumored that one of the two PlayStation CEOs, Herman Holst, is supposed to be stepping in, like, and like hopefully Pete Parsons, the current Bungie CEO, is hopefully out the door soon, because like as you both like discussed, like nothing's gonna change if he stays. Like he's let them get to this point. Like clearly he doesn't deserve this role at this point. He needs to be out. And I know a lot of people are like doom and gloom if like PlayStation steps in and takes over, but at the same time, it's just like if the only other option, like do you want this person to remain in power and then just keep bleeding this company to the ground? It just like
You can only cut your workforce in half so many times so the CEO can get his bonus before it's one guy trying to make money for 30 people who are, leading the company and not doing anything else.
And like the same thing that was fucked up last time with the layoffs that's fucked up now is when Sony bought Bungie, they gave them a basically a retention budget of like if everyone stays with the company during this like buyout, at a certain point you get the payout. The first group of layoffs people, obviously they got laid off. They were no longer eligible, even though they, as far as they were concerned, they abided by like they didn't seek employment elsewhere. They stayed with the company. They were going to keep working with the company, but they were laid off and no longer eligible for it. And the exact same with the people here. Like they still don't fall under like that portion where they could have got the payout. Like it's fucked up beyond belief. Like you can't at least give them like these retention payouts, like because like they honored their part of the deal. Because like you fucked up, like they have to suffer even further. It's just
Unfortunately, a lot of people, a lot of companies, they don't look at the people, they look at them, they look at the numbers. This is like everybody in, like, for my company, I'm assigned an employee number. Like, luckily, I'm with how good I do at my job, they can't really ignore me to that extent. But like for everybody else, it's just this isn't so and so who's pregnant about to have a family. This is employee number 1, 2, 3, 4. And if we get rid of them, this is how much money we keep. So let's just ask them. They don't care about this person's future, their situation. It's just a numbers game for them. It's just like this. These are the list of string of numbers. Where if we get rid of this employee number, this and this employee number, that, where like maybe their quarterlies, I don't know, like we'll just throw some business terms here. Their quarterlies weren't as high as somebody else, but that's because they were helping this other person get their numbers up. Or it's kind of disgusting when these companies are allowed to get away with this sort of thing, and like all these people in power just pretty much applaud themselves and pat themselves on the back after saving all this money from the company for the company by getting rid of all the people who made the company what it is. I It has never made sense to me. It will never make sense to me. And I hope one day somebody does something so it does make sense to me.
yeah. The future for this at this point is uh who knows. Honestly, I hope they can hit a point where they can get some point of stability and like honestly with their current plan of what seems to be what's coming next year, while it doesn't seem like a lot of content updates, as long as like each year I get like a couple of reasons to hop in this game that I love and enjoy, I'm okay with that, as opposed to the game shutting down completely. Because that's the thing, like despite everything going on, like when you look at there's like 850 employees left working on it, passionate workers. There's no reason for like these people to suffer as well because of these stupid fucking CEOs. Like, I'll be straight up honest. Like, I'm not boycotting the game. Like, I think actually Solstice is supposed to start this week coming up, so I might actually hop in for the first time in a couple weeks. But like, it is very disheartening because it's just like this game that I've sunk in, as you know, so many hours into. That realization, like I think Anthony, I think you said it, or it might have been, I can't remember which one of you said it, but it's like essentially now it has that feeling of, oh, it's got a shelf life. Like, it's just this game that I thought would be around. I don't know. It almost felt like eternal at this point in a weird way, but it's just like, I don't know, maybe not so much. But yeah, it's all just super shitty news. Any final thoughts on this before we move on?
Do better, Bungie.
Do fucking better. All right. Next up, Avowed has been delayed. Microsoft has officially moved the Avowed release date to February 18th, 2025. The delay is to give Avowed more breathing room upon release. Stay tuned for more from Xbox's games from Activision Blizzard, Bethesda, and Xbox Game Studios at Gamescom, including a live stream on August 23rd. So, in terms of Microsoft's crowded schedule, like, this is obviously ignoring third-party releases and stuff like that. October 8th, Vessel of Hatred. October 25th, Black Ops 6. November 19th, Microsoft Flight Simulator. November 20th, Stalker 2. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle 2024. Shattered Space 2024. Towerborn 2024. So I understand the idea of, like, you don't want to release a game when it's too crowded, because, like, you don't want to screw over its chances. I think a good example was Titanfall 2 released in between Battlefield and Call of Duty. So the game, like, which, like, was it within like a month period. So that game was basically just put out to die, unfortunately. But my problem here is I feel like the wrong game was picked. Because, like, from what they've been saying, the game's in perfect shape. They're just doing this move for the sake of, like, a less crowded schedule. But when you look at the games I just announced, or I talked about, Black Ops 6, Stalker 2, Indiana Jones, Shattered Space, 4 games right there. First person shooters.
Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Well, like those 4 first person shooters, like,
Okay.
all within like a month and a half-ish time, probably. Whereas Avowed, out of everything listed, I can't say anything for Towerborn, but Avowed is an RPG. Like, move one of the FPSs, like move Indiana Jones into 2025, because now they're pushing Avowed into 2025, where Fable is supposed to come out, another one of their games. So, like, they're pushing it from a crowded first-person shooter schedule to a year where we're getting fucking Fable. It doesn't make sense to me. They should have delayed Indy. I understand, like, Indy is definitely like the bigger draw because of, like, the franchise, the license to it. Like, Avowed, like I know I think it's in the Pillars of Eternity universe or something like that, or something like it's taken lore from one of those types of universes, but still, it just I don't understand, like, because, like, that was granted, I'm a little biased because that was the one I was really looking forward to. Don't get me wrong, I'm excited to play Indy, but Avowed I was really excited for. But it just baffles me that you have all these first person shooters and your first thing is like, let's move the one that's different out of this window. But Mark, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, it doesn't make sense at all. I didn't even put that together until you said it. But yeah, like, you have all these first person shooters come out, like, and you move the RPG to release next to another RPG so it has more breathing room. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, just move one of the shooters. Call of Duty, I understand them not moving because that's a very strict release window for them, but, like, yeah, I don't know. I don't understand because like I'm pretty sure most of these boardrooms don't have any gamers on them at all. They're just people looking like, oh well, this one's probably not going to make as much money if we release it here, so let's put it over there. That'll be fine. Yeah, that's exactly what everybody wants. Yeah, I don't know. That's silly. Uh, yeah, I don't understand. I mean, if they moved it because they didn't want to compete with Microsoft Flight Simulator, because here that one's just going to be soaring over all the competition for its sales. But
I think before I throw it to you, Anthony, too, the thing that like again like just annoys me is like this happened recently, not via Microsoft, but um Banishers. It got moved out of like the October it was supposed to come out, and it didn't have like it had like some titles around it, but then they're like, "Oh, we're gonna move it so it's like less crowded." And I can't remember the full batch of games that released around the same time as Banishers, but one of them was freaking Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Like, I
Wasn't Dragon's Dogma around there too?
yeah,
Or
Dragon's
no?
Dogma 2 as well.
Was it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Fucking, it baffles me.
hold on, that doesn't make sense. Doesn't
All
make
right,
sense.
Anthony, what are your thoughts on this whole thing?
It's. I mean, it could be what you're saying, Mark. Like a board, like guys who aren't gamers, they're just looking at, analytics or numbers or whatever. Just the game is a number. Let's move this number to 2025. But like, I wonder if like, I mean, there wouldn't be any reason for this, but I guess maybe they need more time on it. And like for some reason they're not saying that's the reason, but like why wouldn't they just say that? Unless it has to do with shareholders. I don't know. I don't know. It's just stupid. It's stupid overall because I was looking forward to playing that one as well. Um, assuming it would run on the Series S, but yeah, it is unfortunate. Why are they making so many first-person shooters? And why are they releasing them all not only in the same year but in the same half of the year? Like what's the thought process there? Like I mean, yeah, I agree definitely they should have moved one of the other ones, but at the same time, why are they making so many first-person shooters? Like okay, I get Call of Duty and like maybe another one, but like four of them? Like that's interesting choice, Microsoft.
Well, to be fair, uh, Shattered Space is an expansion of a already existing. It's Starfield's DLC.
Starfield? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so, but like, I just wanted to really nail home the point of like four
Yeah.
products that
No,
are first person shooters. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like, I do see a world where, because like, keep in mind, Soccer 2 just got delayed recently, right?
right.
And now we have this avowed delay. Indiana Jones, Shattered Space. They don't have concrete dates. Neither does Towerborn. I think the true reasoning behind this is they're thinking money, right? Because like
Has to
October,
be.
yeah, October, they're like via Game Pass, people are getting the DLC for Diablo and Black Ops. Now November, people are getting Microsoft Flight Simulator and Stalker 2. The rumor is Indiana Jones is supposed to be December. I think they probably want to start trying to prevent double dipping major titles in a month to try to get more money out of like monthly subscriptions for Game Pass. So I think logically in my mind, that's the only reason they actually well, outside of what you said, Anthony, where they might need time to work on it, but like still, it's just they
No,
should have just said it.
what you're saying makes a lot of sense, but what I wonder is like if they approach it that way long term, like how many windows of time are they going to have where a game is ready, but it doesn't release for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months? Next thing you know, what are those studios doing in the time when this game is ready? Like I don't know what the process is, but I feel like that would like we already know like the difficulties Microsoft tends to with like their business model and stuff, right? Like, is that really going to be like the play? Like, oh, do they really think putting Avowed Like, is Avowed going to be like this huge push for the month it gets added that they're going to spike in subscriptions? Like, I don't know. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm looking forward to it, but like as we know, it's supposed to be a more like a shorter experience. Like, I don't know. Interesting choice.
Yeah,
But what you say, Chris, does make sense. Like, that is probably a huge factor in why they did that.
yeah, because if you look at it from a marketing perspective, which we all know, Sean, thankfully he's not here because he hates marketers. Because like you think about this, like with them doing this, I think to try to space out monthly releases, you'll probably see like in a couple, like maybe like 4 or 5 months, you'll see like Microsoft going like guaranteed every month via Game Pass, you're getting a first party title, like them trying to layer it like that as like a push. Because like you said, Anthony, like Avowed isn't a huge main draw, but it is a first party title, right? So I
True.
think like that's how they kind of. I think that might be what they're kind of like leading up to. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Another thing I just kind of thought of as well, just like to sort of stack on like the money thing we were talking about too, because it's like the income from these RPG games, like these single player RPG games, it can't compete with like a Call of Duty or something like that. Because with Call of Duty, like, you know, like first and foremost, it has one of the largest audiences for games and stuff out there, simply because like it's very easy to stream with. So like you encounter all of that audience, and like, you know, a lot of the younger people like playing it too, because it's just a quick, fast-paced game. And then also the microtransactions, because there's always going to be skins and stuff involved now in those games. So maybe they're just trying to pad their numbers before the end of the year, and that's why they pushed this other one to next year, because like it's like, oh, like also kind of to stack on the Game Pass thing, where like they're trying to fill it in, so like there's like some sort of like first party release, as you were saying, which kind of makes sense as well. So they're going to push the one that they're going to get the least numbers from to the next fiscal year sort of deal. So like they can end the year on a strong point for their investors, and then they can add this new title later on where they don't have to worry about that month now or something like that.
yeah, where if it has a soft launch, it doesn't affect them as much. That does
Yeah.
make sense because it did seem like they got hit pretty bad with like the lack of players, like with Hellblade 2 that came out recently, right? Like, no, that definitely like lines up to. Yeah, it's just whatever Microsoft's doing. Let's see how it plays out. I guess.
RPGs are great. They're definitely be one of my favorite sort of genres forever, but that's just not kind of where the market is if you want to make insane amounts of money, unless you're like Baldur's Gate, because everybody wanted to play that because it was the in thing at the time, so everyone wanted to experience that sort of deal. But yeah. And also, this is another reason why I'm happy I did not stick with Microsoft.
That's the thing. Yeah, with RPGs, you definitely have like the outliers that perform really well. Like you said, Baldur's Gate, Skyrim obviously is like a behemoth. Uh, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. But then again, those are like Zelda games, so pre-existing franchise. Like it's a lot of the RPGs do kind of like I think Anthony like would you say like kind of like a niche audience like they all tend to kind of have like they'll have their loyal fan bases and sometimes people explore out of their comfort zones, but
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. Like the big ones are always the ones that garner a big Western fan base, because there is a ton of great RPGs, like Japanese based ones that, they might only sell like 500,000 copies, but they're like lower budget, and they made money, right? Like, whereas the ones here, it's like you have like Final Fantasy 7, right? Look how much money was probably put into that game. Or like even what was it, Final Fantasy 16, right? Like, where they're like, oh, 3 million copies or however many, and then Sony's like, or I mean, Square Enix is like, we didn't hit our target. It's like, what? Meanwhile, like these other studios making these RPGs that are, I mean, obviously visually they're not as stellar as fucking Final Fantasy 16, but like they're still enjoyable to play. Like it just sucks thinking that like the way the market seems to go financially, that like we'll probably just be getting less and less, especially with the younger generations coming into gaming, and it's like Fortnite, Call of Duty, um, that style game. Like I don't know, I don't have anything to base this on, but it just feels like we're getting less and less gamers that are like us, where either we prefer genres like RPGs, or we have a wide range of preferences that not only include the mainstream but also these smaller, where it's like, do we stop seeing a lot of good games like Avowed, right? Like, is there a time frame, like a world where we don't see a game like Avowed get made because it determines it's not going to push enough subscriptions for that month, I don't know. Like they just rely on the whole indie industry to fill that basket, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully, I'm excited for Avowed. Hopefully, it does well. Um, yeah, I'm genuinely curious if it gets a sequel when all is said and done. Like, I think it'll be like how much it pushes those subscriptions, and if like they're willing to justify it, because like Obsidian is a big company. Like they're working on Outer Worlds 2. Grounded is kind of like a games as service almost for them. I think they might have another game in the works as well. So like they're working on a lot of titles all together. So like I do see a world where it doesn't hit the numbers and Microsoft's just like, oh, we're cool with a one and done. We don't want to kind of have like a Hellblade 2 experience. Uh any final thoughts before we move on?
Do better, Microsoft.
A lot of bummer topics, Well, actually, it's just two big bummer topics. All right, so final topic. What is a collector's edition of a video game that you regret not buying? Anthony, you can start us off.
So there's one that is my answer. There's another one that it's like, I wouldn't say it's regret. It's more like I wish I could have, because like I don't regret it because I just, because of the cost for it. It was never in the cards. So it's not like in the moment where I was like, okay, I'm not going to do this, and then I'm like, oh, I should have done it. It's like, no, I'll never think I should have done it because the cost was just ridiculous, and that is Final Fantasy 16. It's just too expensive, like ridiculous. But my true answer is Destiny 2 Witch Queen. That I wanted it so bad, and I was in the store on the Bungie website. There was like a queue to get on to the website when it went live, and I was there, and I put it in my basket, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna spend this much. Like, I'm not gonna do it. So I backed out, and then like hours later, I'm like, fuck, I should have done it. And I went to check, and of course they're all sold out. And I've regretted it ever since, even to the point where when they put out the Lightfall pre-orders, I remember talking to Chris after. He's like, "Oh, you should have just did it, and then if you change your mind, cancel it." So that's what I did. I pre-ordered the Lightfall Collector's Edition, which I then ended up canceling before it came out. But and I don't regret that. Like that one just wasn't as cool. Obviously, we know how Lightfall was received and generally, but yeah, the Witch Queen. I'll always regret that. I even I haven't talked to Sean about this. I don't know if he'd be entertaining it. I don't even know if I for sure want to do it, but I do. I have a backwards compatible PS3 that can play PS1 and PS2 games. The kick is that it can play PS2 games because that's not very common. There's only like two different models or so, two or three. There was a special edition. I think like a themed one. Like I don't know if it was like how like there's like Halo themed Xboxes. It was like a themed PS3 with some game that could also do it. And he's a game collector, consoles and all. And last I checked, they're valued around the same, the Witch Queen Collector's Edition and this, and he has a sealed Collector's Edition of the Witch Queen. I was considering potentially seeing if he was interested in a trade, but I'm not quite sure if I want to pursue that. But it's always on my mind. Like there'll be just random days where like I just think that just pops into my head, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should text him, But who knows? But yeah, I regret. Like I was. It wasn't even like, oh, I should have bought that. It was like I was there, man. I was there. I was just one button click away from buying it, and I didn't do it. Goddamn.
Yeah, for me, I had it pre-ordered, but I canceled it because at the time I can't remember the specifics to it. But I wasn't making the money. It might have been around college. I wasn't making the money to justify spending the money because like this thing was over $300. And it's the Black Ops 3 Juggernog Collector's Edition that came with the Juggernog mini fridge.
Oh
I
shit.
deeply regret that like every day.
I
Like,
remember that. Yeah, I remember you talking about that a long
fucking
time ago.
always one of my
Now the
biggest
thing
regrets.
is, most collector's editions, even though they're collector's editions, most of them generally only go down in value. But isn't that fridge worth like a ton of money?
Yeah. Yeah, at least last time I checked, it was worth a lot more, I think, than what you would have initially had to pay for it. Yeah.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, I've deeply regretted that for a long time. Mark, how about you? What's your answer?
See, like I don't necessarily regret not buying these things, but like I do kind of wish I did, but it's not like it doesn't eat at my soul the way Anthony's does. So I have kind of like two just because of like how much time I've put into these series. But like the first one would be the Skyrim one, because I'm pretty sure one of them came with like a big statue with a dragon on it.
This one?
Yeah, that one right there. Like that because like I put so much time into Skyrim and stuff like that. So like based on just the hours alone, like yeah, I kind of it would have been nice to have for sure. Another one, I think it was the Halo 3 collector's edition. Like I'm almost certain I did get the collector's edition, but I didn't get like the big one. So like I think the big one came with Master Chief's helmet. That one would have been real cool to have. Just because like Master Chief will definitely be one of my favorite. I don't really include the newer games because I probably will never play them. So like where I ended off, that's the only Master Chief I need to know. But yeah, he's definitely been one of my favorite characters throughout pretty much all of gaming. And he will continue to be. I'll just ignore all the new stuff.
Way back when we got them, did I ever send you the photo of the Master Chief helmets we got at work?
You did, yeah.
Okay, all right, yeah, yeah. No, but I do remember that. Yeah, because we played Halo 3 like together, like when it came out and all that. I do remember that special edition. And to be honest, like going into this, I kind of thought that was going to be at least one of your answers. So yeah, yeah, that was from what I heard. I can't remember who got it. I think somebody we went to school with had it, but like the helmet itself was like smaller than
It was pretty
expected.
small, yeah.
Yeah,
I want to say Scott.
yeah,
That's the one that
that makes sense to me.
jumps out to me.
Yeah, yeah,
I
because
know
go ahead.
you know my buddy Rob?
Yeah,
He was like a big Xbox guy growing up before he switched to PC, and I remember him having that as well. And yeah, I think you're right. It was like I don't think you could like wear it by any means.
yeah, yeah. It had to be either Scott or maybe Paul. Yeah, those are the only two people I could think of.
Yeah, one of the two.
Which one worked at EB Games?
Scott.
Didn't want to
Scott. Yeah.
feel like he's probably likely the one.
Oh,
Or was
Yeah,
he?
that's one of the reasons why I thought it was probably him. He's a big gamer guy, so
all right. Any final thoughts on collector's editions that we regret not buying?
Buy it and worry about it later.
I'll tell you what I do not regret buying, and that is the Spider-Man 2 collector's edition for that Venom statue. I would have regretted that so much if I did not get that. Oh man.
Got that 18 inches of Venom.
Oh yeah. I believe it's 19 inches of Venom.
Oh,
Or
nice.
maybe I just added the extra inch. You know.
Hey man, add as many inches as you want because you got it.
All right. This has been another successful episode of the Guy Pipe Podcast. I'm Chris. That's Mark.
Bye-bye.
And Anthony.
See ya.
That's away.